Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. So I think we're going to start now. Um, there's still people trickling in, but it is what it is. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar about RPA, the what, when, and how. First off, thank you for taking the effort and interest to attend during these testing times. I hope all of you are safe. There seems to be some hope around the corner with the vaccine rolling out across the world. Well, anyway, we're here to talk to you about our robotic process automation, something that media agencies have been harping about for some time now, about how automation is going to take over the world and that humanity is going to become redundant soon. Well, though we love all the drama, here we seek to deep dive into what the technology is and how it can accelerate your business processes. So, who are we? We are Skcript. We're a global technology and design consulting company, and we work with customers across multiple technical verticals. Our expertise is our passion and love for tech. We work with some of the best people in the industry, from open source contributors to enterprise veterans, and the occasional prodigy or two. One such prodigy that I'm so happy to introduce you to is Varun. He's the CIO at Skcript and also your speaker. I'm Swati, the CTO at Skcript and your host. Thanks again for coming. I hope we have a lovely time. I'm so happy to introduce Varun, our host, who is also the author of the book Spearheading the RPA Journey in Your Organization. It's available on Amazon right now. Here we talk about how you can automate business processes, how you can set up teams, and how you can scale for the future. We also have a YouTube channel where we post about automation videos and other tech videos. Go have a look. One of these videos is about how you can manage your inventory system using RPA. So this is traditional RPA where we automate business processes that involve humans clicking on buttons, downloading the reports, processing them, all of this. We also post some really cool tech where we are integrating AI into RPA. One such video is how you can automate things on your system using voice commands in RPA. So you can essentially talk to your system and have it respond to you. There's some interesting stuff in the world of RPA. I'm so happy to introduce you to our agenda for the day. We'll first start off the topic or the webinar with what is RPA and how you can adopt RPA in your organization, how you can implement and scale, and finally, some of the use cases that I think will be really relevant to businesses and people like you. All right then, so Varun, up to you. I'm so excited to introduce you to our host today. He'll be taking over the topic from now on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Swati. And let me share my screen. Yes, hope you guys can see. Is it visible, right, Swati? Perfect.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So welcome everyone, and thanks again. Once again, thank you everyone for having your time being here. I hope this webinar will be of greater purpose for you. So I want to structure this entire webinar in a way that anyone who is joining you or anyone who is an intermediary or who is aware of RPA can get sense out of RPA and what they can potentially do out of RPA and why they have to do out of RPA, right? So as the first piece, as mentioned in the agenda, I want to structure it in 4 cases where first you need to get an awareness about what is RPA. And in the second one, you need to know when your organization can look into RPA and what is the benefits out of it kinds. And the third piece, I will be talking about how you can implement RPA either with yourself, within your team, or hiring an external consultant and have them work for you kinds. And in the last one, I'll be talking about some of the use cases that are currently available in the industry that people are using RPA for and how they potentially get benefit out of it. So getting started with what is RPA, right? So it's kind of a new technology, I would say, which is there in 3 to 4 years now, and a lot of organization, mainly the enterprise, is having their eyes on it because of the benefits that they get out of it. But before that, what is RPA and what not is RPA? Right? So when we talk about RPA, the word coins like robotic process automation. There are a lot of things coming to people's mind, but to give set of context, RPA is not about digitization, because RPA is a technology that works on top of digitization, where your systems are already in digital and you want to automate some of the tasks that you perform on these systems, right? So it's not digitization as such. And also it's not physical robots, like, the ones that you see in the videos where, physical bots performing some task. It's not the robots, it's more on the software robots. And it's not, again, the workflow tools, right? So for example, it's not any content workflow tool or any data workflow tool that runs in the background. That's not exactly RPA is. And RPA is something a little different from that, and I'll explain you why that is a little different. And also it's not artificial intelligence, because whenever the word robot is present, people tend to think it is something around artificial intelligence, right? So RPA is not about artificial intelligence, not that complex. It's simply a software that you can configure to perform some set of tasks. So these are not usually represented as RPA, but people usually get into the assumption that these are falling under the RPA's domain. But what is RPA? So assume RPA is nothing but a software that can mimic human operations, right? For example, you have a system where you get data from one application, you do perform some operation, and then write the end result to another system, right? So that is kind of a traditional task that all the organization uses across their processes. So RPA fits in this place where you don't have to make any changes in the system. You put an additional layer on top of it, where this layer behaves like a human, right? You configure the layer to work whatever you instruct it to. So it basically gets the report, clicks on this different screens and stuff like that, performs the actions. And it can work with any application regardless of its extendability. So which means, for example, you have a system which is SAP and you have an internal system. So SAP comes with APIs, right? So you can automate APIs with languages like Python, Ruby, or JavaScript, and stuff like that. But systems that are internal are very closed, will not have any external APIs. So RPA can be a bridge between these systems and the ones that are having APIs as well. So it's kind of an external layer that works something similar to how human interact with computers. And also you can configure these to work on certain regular patterns, which will say you can define say A, B, C and rules, and the bot will perform corresponding rules accordingly. So that's kind of the high level overview of what RPA is and what RPA can potentially do to your processes. Now, why industry is adopting RPA? Why not any new technologies? Like, we have ample amount of time and effort to implement technologies that are very new, right? So why are not enterprises looking into that, and why are they looking into RPA? So RPA is a technology where you don't have to do any changes to your existing technological belt, and you can just add an layer upon it, and it's going to work flawlessly, right? So when you want to bring in automation to your existing system, it can be just a layer on top of your existing technologies, and it's going to function seamlessly. And the benefit it gets out of it is, you can increase your throughput. For example, you have an organization which is having a volume of, say, 100 tasks per day. But if you have a requirement of running 1,000 tasks per day, with current human workforce or current technology, there will be a limitation of performing the higher volume, right? But when you have RPA, you can have multiple executions and parallel executions, whatever the human workforce is doing. By increasing that, you can achieve your higher volumes. So your input throughput is increasing with a minimal cost and effort. And also quick scale ups and scale downs. For example, you have a e-commerce website and you are automating some of your processes or some of the actions that are happening in the backend team, right? So you have a back office, people are sitting and then they do some operations. For example, you are now running a sale, or you're now running a discount offer. At the time the orders picks up, so your backend team has to scale up to that in order to plan the efforts, right? But with RPA, you don't have to increase anything, any major resources. You just need to have bots scaled up, running, and then it's going to give you much faster results, much faster ROI as well. So because you don't have to bring in new people, train them, and do that. You just configure once, it's going to scale up to run multiple times, and also easier maintenance. So when I say maintenance, you don't have to keep training the bot, because if there's a new system, you just need to reconfigure that one piece for the bot to work. And also this upgrades, right? So you get for any tool that you use for RPA, it comes with major upgrades every year. So, but upgrading the modules are much easier. You just need to, it's a click away, right? So you just need to go and then update it so that the bot can work. So considering these factors, industries are looking into RPA as one solution for automation, where they don't have to invest on anything major other than the RPA tools and the development cost, and get the maximum benefit out of it. So that's the reason why currently industry is looking into RPA. So talking about the benefits, right? So some of the points that I covered before, talking about the benefits, the cost reduction. So as I said, whenever you are running an organization of say 1,000 people and having them work on some redundant task, you basically have a talented workforce, but working on something that is of very lesser effective or lesser ROI. When you assume that you bring in RPA, have these people work on something more intelligent oriented or experience demanding, and have these basic tasks done by bots. So that's going to give you a lot of opportunities to bring in new technology, bring in new values to the organization rather than doing an existing task, right? So, and that can bring in that you can bring in a very less cost, right? Running a bot is much cheaper than running a human workforce, because of all the complexities that are involved. Similarly, scalability, which like the points I covered before, right? So scalability is one major factor that is limiting an organization to grow in numbers, right? So currently, if you have say 10 projects, and if you want to take 10 more projects, we are always limited with various resources, right? So, but when we have a system or a bot that is running for us, increasing the volume it's a matter of minutes or hours for us. And similarly, reporting. So this is a very important factor that we in our customers see as a major challenge, where there'll be different people working on a task, and everyone will have different formats of creating reports or creating the results, right? So there's no standard format. So anytime a new person is onboarded, needs a learning curve for them to adopt to these reportings. Whereas when we automate these things with help of bots or with help of these sort of robotic automation, right? So reportings become standard. All these things can be standardized, and any bot that runs the report will be forming a common format. So this is a very important factor, because you can reduce a lot of time and effort and money in investing in training programs, whereas the bot is always standardized and you can just create a manual out of it. And bottlenecks. So this is a very interesting scenario where some of our customers has an organization that runs from 9 to 5, but for the remaining part of the time, which is mostly the sleeping hours, the resources, the devices, right, so are sleeping empty. They're not of any use, but they have volume to be covered, but they are not able to do, because the human workforce is entitled to work from 9 to 5. And even if shifts, they are not able to cover, because in order to have maximum throughput, they need to increase their number of people. So what they ultimately did is to, we suggested implementing an RPA to, work in the 24/7 model, where we use all the, servers and everything always, and increase the volume, which is like, increasing from 1x to 3x, right? So it's going to run for, instead of 8 hours, it's going to run for 24 hours. So that's one more major thing that industry is currently having as having an interest over RPA, where it can run without any stress or bias. And also adopting any new change. For example, your organization has 10 system today for a process, and there's a new change in the process, and having another system. In order to make the system function across your business unit, you need to train everyone, and you need to understand the system and everything, right? And it's going to take a lot of money, a lot of time for you to bring in this change. But with RPA, you have a bot running for 10 systems. Adding a new system is going to be a very simple thing. You just need to reconfigure that to include that system in the process, and it's going to work accordingly, right? So you change in one bot, you have one developer or two developers working on the change. That's going to solve all the problem. So that's kind of the summarizing all these points. That's kind of the ROI that we look at. It's quite faster compared to a traditional model where you have people working on it and bringing in the output. The bot's working on it, bringing in the output is much faster, because the operation cost of the bot is lesser. And so these are the basic benefits that people are currently looking at. And what are the types of RPA? For example, we have automation. The systems has different varieties, right? Similar like cloud or on-premise, something like that. RPA has different types that based on the functionality, based on the way that behaves. So the three major types are attended bots, which are nothing but a bot that is continuously monitored by a bunch of people or a bunch of support team, where it runs in a attended session, right? It logs into a system and then it keeps running in the views of the support team. So the major reason here is that a process which has having a multiple human checkpoints requires constant human interventions, right? So we cannot run it in background or something like that, where the humans need to go and then log into the system again and again. So here, this bot fits in the right place where you want to run attended sessions, where whenever there's a new checkpoints, the human goes and intervene there, and then the bot will pick it up from that point. Similarly, there could be scenarios where the bot can take over the complete step and then run unattended without any human intervention. So it can run in a deep storage or deep servers where we don't have any control. We don't have to take any controls. So scenarios like automation of regular reports, where it just needs to download reports from different system, performs the logic, sends it to the server, sends it to the team. So these bots are called as unattended bots, or the background bots, where this doesn't need any implementation. It keeps running on a schedule or a trigger. There could be a hybrid bot which involves bots running in the background, but on a regular interval of say days or weeks, it sends out a human intervention checkpoint. Like for example, looking for a file, or every month a human has to place a file, an initial data file or something like that, and then it picks from there kinds. So this is more of a larger interval checkpoints, and the bots and humans interact, but in a larger spectrum, not in a very regular or a smaller interventions. So these are major three types of bot that currently the industry is adopting. And there is one more special time that is currently blooming, which is the intelligent automation. Intelligent automation is nothing but, as I said earlier, robotic process automation combined with artificial intelligence. Whereas, for example, if your business processes has to make some decisions on based on a data, on a say bunch of data, a month's data or something like that. Usually that is done based on the human's experience and their knowledge, but there could be a potential where we can implement artificial intelligence there, and that decision making can be done by the artificial intelligence component, and the execution can be done by the RPA. So this is a very common or this is a very hot topic now, the intelligent automation, which is a mix of AI and RPA. And this is kind of the future of automation, the robotic process automation. People claim it that way because of its capability to run autonomously, even for complex decisions, right? So if you're a large organization and want to bring in some sort of automation that can work on its own, this is the one way to go ahead. Perfect. Now, when we know what RPA is, right? Now we know what potentially it can do, but how do you decide whether your organization should get into RPA, or it can go with the current technology and current models, right? So there should be some sort of analysis that needs to be done that should potentially decide whether your organization is requiring RPA, or is it a necessity of implementing RPA? And if it is a necessity, what is the ROI? How can we calculate the ROI and stuff like that? So this is the second discussion of the day, where we talk about finding the potential processes, evaluating the elements in that, and how do we whether for finding the helping you find the ROI for that. Potential processes. A potential process is for RPA is nothing but a process considering these factors, right? So a process that involves a lot of human effort. For example, you have a system that needs constant human efforts, right? So where that's consuming a lot of humans' time, and it is also rule based, because a processes that is consuming a lot of human effort and also rule based. You can define boundaries to this processes. and it doesn't have any major exceptions, right? So these processes, and it can run without human intelligence. You say 1 plus 2 is always 1 plus 2 is 2, right? So these kind of rules are defined for such processes, and also the inputs for these processes are digital, right? As I said before, digitization and RPA works on top of digitization. So if your organization is already adopted digitization and having a lot of processes that is involving human effort and are rule based, they are the potential processes for automation, right? So this could include any of your business processes, how no matter how large they are, and how many systems involved, they're potentially automatable. But factors to consider. So you found a potential process. You found that these are the processes to automate. So there are some key factors that are involving the whether automation can potentially give in revenue, or automation potentially can solve this problem. So we found an automatable process. How do we find whether this automation can potentially give us value, right? So these are the factors: input data, output, process, and rules. So these are the primary elements involved in any process, any business process, that defines how complex this process, and what is the return on investment that we get out of this process after automation. So input data. When we talk about input data, imagine a system that has a lot of Excel data or structured data, or JSON, or any data that is coming from a system, right? So these data are quantifiable and measurable and deterministic, right? So if this data comes in, you need to do these actions. So in such cases, the automation works very well. But there could be scenarios where the data is structured, but also it is having some challenges in understanding the data, right? So we'll not be able to take decisions on it. So in those cases, you need to make sure that what sort of pre-processing we can do on the data to give it to automation or give it to the RPA bots. And output. Talking about output is another important factor, where what is the result out of it? What is the goal of this process? So like for example, output could be generating a file, output could be generating a report, or it could be performing some actions in the end system, or sending some notification, right? So these could be the end results out of this data, this process. So sometimes what happens is that output is not quantifiable. For example, decision could be an output, saying whether you should fire this employee or not. This is a very high level output. I mean, this is an output of a process, but a bot should not be able to determine this based on bunch of rules. So in that cases, don't get into automation. But for major scenarios where you need to perform action in systems and stuff like that, RPA is the way. You can just blindly go and then implement RPA. And so when we cover input and output, how are we arriving from input to output is the process, right? So the process could be a bunch of steps or actions that performed in different systems and tools to achieve an output from the given input. So this process, or the sub processes of the master process, could be another factor, or is another factor that should be taken in consideration, because there are two scenarios. One is the systems that are automatable, whether say you have SAP is very much automatable. We have done implementations on that. But there could be an internal system that is having a security measure of running inside a Citrix environment. And this Citrix environment has an OTP mechanism, which changes randomly, and then it needs to be having a human intervention or human knowledge to identify the OTP, right? So in such cases, there could be a roadblock. But in a system where everything is accessible by the bot, and the steps are deterministic, where the bot knows exactly what to do in each and every stages, then that's a really good process to consider. And that if you have a process like that, you can very well go and then implement RPA in that. And finally, rules. So rules are the boundary factors, or the factors that organization takes in a very serious note, so that they don't have any security breaches or anything like that. And also it defines how a process structure nested into different formats, right? So rules are very important for the automation to work. And if the rules are again, based on some human intelligence or something like that, put a checkpoint in there, try to get the data from, try to get the information from the user or the human, and then take a decision on it when you bring in the automation. But if there are various checkpoints and various scenarios, try to avoid such cases to automate, so that you can reduce the complexity of the end final automation. Considering this, so assume that you found a potential use case and you found that this is going to give you some ROI. But how do you calculate this ROI? What are the factors that you need to consider, saying that will measure ROI, right? So often people think that time saved is the only ROI that is that the robot RPA is going to bring, but it is not the case. There are various hidden factors that you will not usually notice, but will give you a greater extent of automation. So the reason why we brought this point is that sometimes what happens is that a process will be very small. Say it's going to save an hour of organization's time, but that could have a different impact that will save a lot of ROI. So what are they is what we're going to talk about here, right? The first as a primary focus, FTE save, the full-time employment timing save, right? So what is the timing that we are going to save from the organization? Say, you're saying 100 hours of time every month, or 150 hours of savings, right? 150 hours is usually one employee's salary that you're going to save. And that employee can be put into another process that needs a lot of human intelligence, and you can help the organization move forward in terms of comparing with a competitor. Similarly, that is one major factor that currently implementing currently people are considering ROI calculation for. And there could be other 4 important factors. One is the cost of operation. The timing saved is one factor, but when you save this timing, the operational time, right, the maintenance for the person, maintenance for the human, or the logistics that is incurred in the human workforce, that is saved. And the resources for the human, for example the devices, the tags and everything, that is also saved when you have RPA in place, because the bot doesn't need all those things. The bot just needs one server to run 24/7, right? So this is the cost of running, the cost of the operation in an organization will be reduced drastically when you implement RPA. And also the risk reduction. So for example, as I said, one process that's taking that's giving around hour of saving, but when you automate this, there is no human bias, there's no risk attached to it, right? The bot is going to run whatever you tell it to run, and there's no bias, human bias, and there's no politics involved. So this reduces a lot of risk for the organization, mainly in automation of payroll, automation of security measures and stuff like that. Will bring in a lot of advantages and better ROI compared to the processes that are saving hours, saving FTEs. So risk reduction is an important factor in ROI measurement. When you bring in automation, you need to measure these things as well. Along with that, speed of operation. For example, a process running, say you have a process that generates a report and sends it to the client. That takes around say 1 hour of your every day. And if you automate it, you can send it in a minute's time, or you can run the automation early in the morning and then have it for the client ready in the morning when he comes to office. That is an advantage, right? So they will be happy. The speed of operation and the turnaround time for any processes is reducing, which is causing a greater impact in terms of delivery and everything. So that is also an ROI that we are quantifying in this process. Similarly, the device and tools utilization. So the resources utilization, right, for the automation to run. It's very less. You just need a server to run. You don't need desk. You don't need chairs and everything. So that is also one sort of reduction, because for processes that are redundant, processes that are very simple and straightforward, you don't need team. You don't need people to do, because those people are intelligent enough and can be put in different landscapes where it involves a lot of human intervention. So that is one more important factors to consider when you calculate ROI. Right. Moving forward, how can you implement RPA? So now we understood how RPA can potentially help you. What is RPA, and how you decide a process to be automatable. Now this is a very important factor for a lot of organizations, mainly enterprises, because they don't have a tech team. They don't have a tech team who works on softwares and stuff like that. Either they depend on an external vendor or external, like consultants, or they set up an internal team to practice RPA and implement RPA in their organization, right? So when you do that, either going with an external vendor or going with an internal team, setting up a new internal team, or training your existing team to bring in RPA as a solution, what are the factors that you need to consider? How do you build in? What is a strategy? What is your life cycle? What are these things? So that's what we're going to talk about in the third phase of this talk, right? So implementation strategy. So this is more like any software model, any software development model, where we have either for waterfall model or agile model. Usually, we go with agile model because we do phase deployment, so that the business can get out, benefit out of it instead of waiting for the entire project to complete and then get it over with. But any model involves these phases, which has to happen in order to get a better output from RPA. The process goes as this, right? So discovery. So discovery is where you identify a potential process, considering the factors that we spoke in the earlier stages. I'll explain how we usually do that. And design phase, where we sit with the developer, architects, designers to design this new to-be process, right? So how this automation process will work, because this is the potential place where you can look at process re-engineering, bringing in some new systems, removing of old systems that are not in use, and then clean up the process also. So design phase is very important, very crucial for the automation to function in a maximum efficiency, right? Build is nothing but the actual development of bots. So this is where engineers come together, also the business analyst comes together and design a process that can work in a very given lesser amount of time with a lot of exception cases and a lot of exception measures, and also disaster recovery and all those things. Finally, go live. So go live is the the final period where you can see your bots running, and you don't have to do anything. It just keep running. You just have to sit alone, to see how what sort of benefit it's bringing in. So that's the phase. That's the last phase of automation, of the final implementation. So going one at a time, process discovery workshop. So this is the discovery phase that I was mentioning about, where we need to identify potential processes, find with the factors that I mentioned initially, right? So how do we do that? Any organization has different verticals, different business units. How do we find potential processes? So the approach that we use is the process discovery workshop, which is nothing but a place where a period where we sit with different business units, their developers, or sorry, their the SMEs, the process owners, and everyone. We talk about the process, their current challenges, what are the bottlenecks that they're facing. For example, a challenge could be like systems are slow, or systems availability, or the calculations that they do on a regular basis. These are the challenges, right? So they face on a process. And also the bottlenecks. For example, they have a time limit window of 9 to 5, and they have to do certain tasks, but with the current team, they are not able to scale up that much. That is a bottleneck. Is there a way to solve that? We need to identify. Is there a way that we can use some sort of APIs to build it? So all these analysis that we do during the discovery phase. So this will be usually a week program to sit with different business units in the organization, pick the potential processes, and identify whether this can be automatable, and what is the ROI that we can bring in, considering after automation. For example, a process that is running for 8 hours a day, and consuming one person to run 8 hours a day, can we automate it to bring it to 30 minutes? We have done that. We have done in the past, processes that takes around 8 hours brought into 30 minutes of execution, because we are saving around 7.5 hours of time. It's just not only the human time, it's the organization's time, right? The resource time and everything. So what is the ROI, and what are considering the previous factors, how can we bring in such ROI, and what is the projections that we look at? So these comes under the process discovery workshop. And based on this workshop, we prioritize which process we should automate first, which process we can take a sit back look at automating later. So this gives you a pipeline for the automation to happen. Once we have the pipeline, assume that we pick up one process, and how do we design that? So this is a very crucial, as I said, this is a very crucial place where you can perform some re-engineering or process re-engineering, or systems revamp, or stuff like that. Because when you do the discovery, you get to know what are the challenges the team is actually facing, what could be the potential challenges the bot also could be facing, and how can we mitigate it, right? So we go in a step basis where we first consider the steps involved, break down into minor chunks, saying, a module based concept, where we sit with the team, see, is this the only way to do the process? Is there a way that we know there is a deviation where we can take to increase this efficiency? Because let me say what, right? For example, a process, a human takes 10 minutes, bot can take seconds if there is any APIs, or is there any way to extract it in bulk, something like that, right? So this re-engineering has to happen in the design phase, where we make use of different verticals that the human might not be able to use, but the bot can use. And the systems, as I said, SAP systems are there. Humans will not be able to use APIs in SAP systems, but the bot can use it. So can we use that to use, bring in this process is another approach that we need to make sure. Systems involved. What are the target systems, and how can we use the system for the bot's purpose? Tools required. So this is another important factor that usually RPA people are forgetting. But whenever someone gets a project, people tend to do whatever that is humans are doing exactly the same way the bot will be doing. But that is not the case. That is not the approach. Right approach is what I would like to highlight. Because for example, if you are using a bunch of Excel data and you want to perform some operation on that, we use fill downs, lookups, and various other operations, right? When we automate it, can we look into either using the RPA tools or using macros to reduce the time? Because there is one process that we did for a bank in the US where they were taking around 3 hours every day consolidating a report, having all the data ready. Just for doing the consultation, they were taking around around 3 hours, and it was involving around 70 to 80 VLOOKUPs and some 100 pivots, stuff like that. That process, after automation with help of macros, we were able to bring it down to 30 minutes. So with 30 minutes of execution, entire report is ready, right? And what happened is that every day they used to run it once every day. But after this implementation, they were able to run it thrice per day, and the results were published to the higher level managers every day thrice. So that they were able to make actions instantly on that day itself to run faster than before, because every time they publish the end of the day, the next day the actions will be performed. But currently, since they're able to publish it every day thrice, they're able to perform the actions on the same day, and then able to deliver the things faster. So picking the right tools during automation is another crucial process that the developers needs to look at and the designers needs to look at. So when I say designers, it's nothing but the architectural designs and the human checkpoints, right? So this is another important place, because not all the process can run autonomously. There needs to be human interventions. For example, if there's a maker checker process, maker could be the bot, which is taking around 3 hours, and checker could be another human that could take 10 minutes. So currently the users will be doing the 10 plus 3 hours. After automation, the bot will do the 3 hours job in say an hour or something, and then gives it to the checker. So this human checkpoints needs to be handled very precisely. How are we going to get the data from user, either via email or a shared folder or a system? How is the interaction between the bot and the system and the human? So human checkpoints need to be designed in a way that it's very easier for the humans, because after automation it should not be an hassle for the humans to interact with the bot. It should be very simpler, right? So that needs to be checked, designed properly. The easiest way for the humans. Fallback mechanisms. What happens if the bot didn't run for 2 days? What for some reasons, right? So the system's going down or something like that. What is the fallback mechanism? Is there a way that humans can pick up from where the bot left and then do the operations? And then when the bot comes back, they can give it to the bot. What is the fallback mechanism? That is also important factors. All the above, migration strategy. So you have the bot ready to develop. After development, how are you going to migrate the access process to the 2B process? What is the strategy? Are you going to do parallel runs? Based on the process, we need to define whether it is going to be a parallel run, or it's going to be a phased approach where 30 minutes, I mean, for half of the day bots will perform, half of the day humans will perform. So based on the business criticality, the migration strategy should be designed such a way that the business continuity is performed, right? There's no break in the system continuity. So these are the important factors that needs to be considered when designing a RPA. So we can't just take the assets process, develop for that. We need to do the process reengineering so that it is advantage for the organization, and actually we are making use of the time as much as possible, because time is very crucial and time is expensive, right? And once we design that, so development is another, the build stage is another important thing where we actually develop the bots, right? So this is an important factor because developing the bot is very important for running the bot as well. So we can't just run a bot which is very fragile, right? So we need to make sure that the bot is very robust in all the environments, all the scenarios. Whenever the systems are slow, the bot should not get a bottleneck. Even if it is getting a bottleneck, how is it going to handle it? And if the bot crashes due to a hardware error, how is it going to come back up and then start from the place where it completes? For example, processes could have retry mechanisms, but some processes will not have the luxury of retrying from the beginning. It should, because it's time bounded, right? So the bot should start from the place where it failed. So these kind of decisions are done during the build stage. The one important place is where reusable components as much as possible, because if you want to change some feature in that component, it's going to change across the systems, change across the workflows. And exception handling. How do we handle an exception? Because there are known exceptions, there are unknown exceptions. Like known exceptions are nothing but the business exception, like the files are not placed in the right time, or the mail is not received, or something like that. And the system exceptions are, the system failed, system crashed, or the system is not accessible, system got changed. How are we going to handle these exceptions in order to give the humans lesser turnaround time? Give them as much as data whenever an exception possible, so that they can fix it, come back, get the back up and running immediately. So that is important one that we need to look into when we design the system, or we build the system and the environment setup. So what are we going to look at? Are we going to look in the cloud environment or local environment? And if it is going to be partial cloud, partial local, how are we going to access the systems? What is the throughput between the end system and the current system? What is the latency and all those things? So that is very important, because if there is a lot of latency, can we do something to reduce the latency to make the bot run faster? Those important factors are involved in the environment setup, and also the access controls and everything, right? So for example, you have a high volume process, and in the starting of the month it could be 10x, and in the end of the month it could be 100x. So how are we going to define a configuration that can scale up easily? And it could be a shared configuration that can scale up easily, and all those things, right? So that configuration is set up also is very important during the build stage. And disaster recovery, for example, this is very important, right? When bot failed, is it not impacting any data, or is it impacting any data that could be used by another human, right? So for example, we are doing a reporting, right? So there will be a master file that has a MTD data, the month data, and we are performing some operation, appending some data into that. Assume the bot failed in the middle of an appending. So that report should not be actual report that the bot should work on, because that will be incomplete data, right? So bot should always replicate the data to the local system and then perform it. So that is kind of the disaster recovery, because if the bot failed, only that snapshot will be failing, not the entire data will be misleading. So disaster recovery is an important factor when we have an automation in place, and how do we come out of it, kinds. And the final important thing is logging. Log as much as possible. You can't just log one piece and then expect your system to your support team to understand where the bot failed or where the bot is performing currently, right? Log as much as possible, log all the steps, so that when you track back, you are able to find the current instance where the bot is, where the bot failed. Is there any flow changes? Is there any system changes? You're able to track it. So this is a very important point you need to make sure when you do a build stage. Go live. So this is the very very happy moment. You have a bot running, you did the UAT, everything is fine, all the systems are up and running, you are good to go live. But you can't just go live directly, right? Because you're going to run it in production systems. All this while you would run in development or UAT, you're going to run in production system. So you need to go it in phased approach where you do a controlled run for a week where the bot runs and then you monitor. There'll be a person monitoring the bot, whether it is doing as per the records, analyzing the outputs, analyzing the results, everything. So this should be a week's activity based on the process. It could be a month activity as well. Depends on the criticality of the process. Once everything is fine, you are confident that the bot is running all fine in the production environment, you go to the unattended runs. So if a bot doesn't need any human intervention, you can schedule the bot, run on its own every day, every hour, whatever, based on your business requirement. This will be a full-fledged run. You will not have to worry about the output and everything, and you just keep running. It's more like you sit back in the beach and then watch the sunset. It just happens automatically. It's going to be like that. But after you do the unattended runs, do a monthly health check or weekly health check, because there could be some system changes, or the machines could have got upgraded, the windows could have got upgraded, and screens could have changed, or some firewall would have been updated and the system could not be having access to that. So you need to monitor that, regular health checkups. So that is very important for the bot to run in the longer run. So you're looking at running the bot for 5 years or 6 years. You need to do the health checkups regularly with help of a small support team that can monitor these things. So this is kind of the approach, kind of the high level on how you build a bot, how you set up your team, how your team should approach this RPA implementation. Finally, use cases. So, considering all these factors, what exactly the industry is using RPA for? So, common factors, right? So that's what we're going to talk about here.
Yeah, I think probably at this point of time, we would love to hear from you if you've got any questions, so that we can just cover relevant use cases at this point of time, because I think taking time into consideration, we would like to give the best to you.
Right. So maybe we can have some discussion in the Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there was one question, Varun, that Niran has asked. So they're a logistics company, and there's a few manual tasks, but they don't know which can be automated. So do you have like a checklist or something?
Right. So in order to give clarity on that, right? So that's where the process discovery workshop comes into picture, where you said that there are multiple manual processes, right? So you need to sit with the team and just list on all the steps that they perform in this process on a high level stage. You don't have to go granular. You can just get a high level step and see these systems involved are having deterministic screens, right? There's no captcha, there's no OTP or anything like that. You just log in, you use it, stuff like that. And are these decisions are rule based? Say, you have data 1 and data 2, and if the data 1 and 2 are true, you just need to do the data 3, something like that, rule based, right? So if that is the case, you can definitely go and automate it. And also the ROI. What is the volume? What is the risk involved? That is solved, that is sorted. You can definitely go into automation.
Okay. So we have another question from Mr. Mudasir. So is there any use case for the education industry?
Certainly, right? Education industry, currently with all these online classes and stuff like that, there is a lot of automation that people are asking us as well. We even recently got from a university in Singapore where they wanted to correct the exam papers. For the scenario was like, whenever the exams are done online, so the students are scanning the document in Cam Scanner and then sending to their email ID. So that the organization wanted to find a scenario where whenever they get the email from the student, based on the email ID, based on the result sheet, can they do an automation? It's a more like an OCR screen. It's more like the where you find the choices, right? So you just need to scan it, do a check on the results, and then publish the results within an hour, whether they passed or failed. So that is one more brilliant use case that was recently came into our radar for the education industry. So there are endless use cases, right? And COVID being making the industries come to online, and all the digitization is happening now. Education industry, and which is getting the new phase of approaching the trainings and everything. RPA is right fit for that.
Exactly. We have one question from Mr. Abdullah. So what is the difference between a workflow and RPA?
So workflow, I believe that workflow, when you mentioned about workflow, it's about the system workflows and the data document workflows, right? So workflows deals with data interchange, right? So where you have a data, you decide whether this data should go to which stage. So there are tools, there are CRM, ERP tools for doing this thing. RPA is majorly a software layer on top of existing systems that can perform bridging between different systems, right? So not necessarily workflow, it can do any operation. As I said in the education industry use case, where you can even that is also a workflow when the data comes from user to the PDF, from the PDF to the system to the result. So that's also a workflow. But
Right.
the traditional system will not be able to log into the Gmail, log into download the report, do a OCR on top of it, and all those things. It just needs data to work. But RPA can do all these things. It just needs systems to work. So that is the difference.
Right, absolutely. Awesome. Any other questions?
Yeah, if any other questions, we can take it up. I'm constantly looking into the Q&A, so if there is any questions, you can post it there.
Yeah. I think in the interest of time, we might just
Perfect.
skim over the use cases.
Right. So as I mentioned, so I've covered 3 different industries in this slide, which we majorly work with, so that we are very confident about the use cases. One is the banking sector. Banking has a lot of data and very crucial data, right? So banking sector is one place where automation is helping a lot, and majorly in reconciliation, auditing of data, regular auditing. For example, the scenario I was saying, the report generated every day was now generated every hour, and then actions are performed on it, right? So those sort of things and reporting. For example, business units needs to know the performance of the employees. So every day they do a reporting that can be automated now. There is no requirement for MIS agents or anyone like that. So bot can perform all those things when the
And
agents
if
can
you see
perform.
these use cases also cross over across multiple industries as well.
Right. That's the
Like
beautiful
audit
part.
and compliance, I'm sure is a big thing in the education industry as well.
Exactly. So the use cases are quite common. The industries adopting the use cases are majorly for the volumes that they have, because when you say banking, there is a lot of audits that they do, a lot of reconciliation they do, right? So each and every use case that an organization has is a problem in all the organization, all the verticals. Depends on the volume of the data, volume of the problem, right? So that's where it majorly. For example, in banking, these are the major scenarios that we worked for our customers, and in logistics, invoice processing. Invoice processing is nothing but an OCR, but for a specific scenarios, right? So they just scan the incoming invoices, put it in the ERP system, tag it to the customer in the CRM, all those things by the bot. The manual operation that is currently being done by the bot now. So OCR, if you take the same OCR, you can do the same thing in the education industry as well, or you can do the medical industry as well. Like the prescriptions that's coming in, you can do a sales order automation on top of the prescription from the medical in the medical lines as well. So use cases are very common, generic. Depends on the verticals. Based on the volumes, the verticals takes advantage on that. So that's kind of for example, in manufacturing and supply chain, sales order and invoice are the major common thing that we work with, and that gave a lot of returns for the customers, right? So these are the major use cases.
Awesome. Okay,
So
so
that's pretty much I
any
got for how and when and why RPA and what is RPA. Maybe if there's any questions that are specific to your use case, we can definitely talk about it, or we can take it offline as well.
absolutely. I'd just like to open up the question panel at this point of time. So you can just type in your questions and we can have it answered.
Swati, in case if you get any questions, let me know. I'm not able to see it here. So.
Yeah, for sure. I'll read it out to you. Okay. All right, so can we, there's a question from Mr. Abdullah who is asking if we can integrate RPA with SAP for HANA.
Right. Yeah. So SAP very well goes with automate. I mean RPA. Regardless of tool, what tool you use, like UiPath, Automation Anywhere, or Blue Prism, or anything like that. So it is certainly possible, sir.
Yeah. I think so. Ishtiaq is raising his hand, but I would request you to
Yeah.
just type up your question in the panel below. Okay. All right, then. I think this brings us to the end of this webinar. Thank you so much for attending. It means a lot to us, and I hope you um, took away something of value from this webinar. We hope to be doing more of these soon, and we'd love to chat with you and see how we can help you in your organization with RPA. Right? I would invite you to probably speak to us after this webinar. Happy to do that. Okay, then. Thanks for your time, everyone. Thanks for coming. Hope you guys are safe and hope you stay safe as well.
Thank you so much, Swati, and thank you so much everyone for being here. And hope this was a good knowledge for you as well. And let me know. Let us know in case of anything. We'll be happy to help you out.
Absolutely. All right, then. Have a great time. Thank you. Bye.